Conrad, he got a little hole, he brings it into the secondary, he's gone! He's gone! Touchdown! Mark Conrad with the first Tiger touchdown of the year. Flanker wide right, they got Hook up in the slot. It's an option pass, the Tigers are way back there, they're ready, and intercepted by Breitmeyer. And he's going back up the field, he's at the sideline, we got a flag down, and Breitmeyer is down.
Good evening, everyone. This is Haugen for the Hutchinson Community Video Network. We thought we'd take a chance, an opportunity here to just review the season with Coach Grady Rosberg. We're a little bit past midpoint. The Tigers have a 5-1 record so far. Grady, 5-1 through the first 6 ball games. How do you feel about that?
Well, we feel pretty good about that. I think if you'd have said prior to the season starting, after 6 games you'll be 5-1, you know, we would have felt that was pretty good. Of course, when you lose your last game, that's the one that's kind of sticking in your craw. That's what taste you have in your mouth. And, you know, we felt that we certainly could have won that game, but you know, we shot ourselves in the foot too many times, Ward, in that game. We had too many penalties and, you know, too many situations where we didn't make the play when we needed to, and consequently we were defeated 15-14.
Well, watching that game from and broadcasting it, we had in the neighborhood of 175 yards rushing in the first half. I mean, Conrad and Zemer almost ran at will. They were in the secondary on every play.
Yes, they were, and I felt that we could run against them. I thought our offensive scheme was good, and we got some blocking angles, and we had the backs that could do the job, and we did move the ball extremely well in the first half, but you know, the 4 possessions we had, we should have scored on every one. We had the ball down on the 10-yard line one time and took ourselves out of it. Another time we had a penalty and we missed the 4th down by just a very short margin. And we did put 2 touchdowns in, so we had a 14-0 lead at the half. But in the second half, it was a case of them coming down, getting the opening kickoff, and it took them only 4 plays to score. Then they kicked off, of course, and dropped us back in the 18-yard line, so we started in real poor field position. And the one time that they did stop us up to that time then was at that point, and we came up 4th and a foot, and we were back, you know, on our own 27-yard line, and so we tried to kick it out of there, and we got a very poor punt, and we felt that it hit and went off the leg of one of the New Prague players.
Well, it certainly appeared that way from where I was,
It did appear that way, but the officials didn't see it that way. So they started in pretty good position again, and we were just halfway through the 3rd quarter, and they got a field goal to make it 14-9. And then, you know, into the 4th quarter, I think the big play of the game that people can remember, of course, when they had a 3rd and 33 and they made it, and then we had a 15-yard penalty on top of that. It amounted to about a 73-yard play. And we just didn't have the ball in the second half. We ran 6 plays in the 3rd quarter, and I think 9 in the 4th quarter. We only had the ball 15 snaps in the last half, and a couple times we did get it, they stopped us, and finally we did get a drive going, and we moved it well down into their territory, and we had about a 4th and 3, and we came up a foot short, and then of course they had the ball back again, and they were running bunches of minutes off the clock at that time, and you know, they've got a good football team, and I think you have to give them credit for battling back from a 14-0 halftime deficit. But when you look at the films, we could have and should have probably won the ball game, but we just self-destructed too many times, and you can't do that against a good team like New Prague.
One of the things that I felt was perhaps a problem also in the second half, particularly, you're starting to run out of bodies. You've got some people in various injuries. I know Conrad had a minor, and I don't know if a shoulder separation is ever minor, because I'm sure that hurts. And Scott Johnson didn't play much in the ball game. I think Mingy's got an ankle that's bothering him, and Lindemeyer's got a shoulder that's bothering him a little bit. Schmaling wasn't available, although he will be this week, I understand.
Right. Matt Miller didn't play. Yeah. So you're taking one position there. Matt Miller, who started a number of games for us, and an extremely quick player. You know, he had back spasms all week, and he didn't even dress. And then, of course, Scott Johnson, the outside linebacker, the starter on the left side, was hurt. He had some heart arrhythmia or you know, something that nobody wanted to take a chance on, and so, you know, we had a couple of outside linebackers out, and not that our Jason Rudolph, I thought, played adequately, but anytime you take experience out of there, you know, it's going to hurt you a little bit. And then, of course, the injuries you mentioned to Conrad and to Dake, and we're really pretty beat up going into this game, and it's nice that we're going to get Chad Schmaling back. We really missed him the last couple ball games, and Matt Miller should be available also.
Okay, after we're 2/3 of the way through the season here, you've had a chance to evaluate some personnel. Any surprises on your offensive line, for example, or your running backs? Or are you getting pretty much what you expected?
Well, I thought our offensive line played their best game of the year Friday night against New Prague. I really thought that, you know, from the first game till now, Danny Luke's done a nice job with these kids, and you know, they're playing as a unit and doing a pretty good job. We're still not to the point where we're big and strong and just can smash mouth people out of there, but some of our trap blocking is coming around. Our double teams are pretty good, and we opened up some gaping holes for our backs. Of course, Eric Zemer the last 2 games has played a considerable amount. He had 90 yards rushing against Northfield and came back with 69 yards rushing and 11 carries against New Prague. So he's taking some of the pressure off Mark Conrad, and we've moved Mark up into the fullback spot occasionally, and he's giving us some good production there. So we've got some good combinations there, I think, and offensively, you know, I was pretty pleased with the way we played Friday night. Defensively, we probably had our poorest game against New Prague, but you know, the competition's a little better, and you know, they had one awfully good running back in that Hennon, and a real fine quarterback and an outstanding tight end in this Cratcheville. And those are big play type people, and they made some awfully big plays against us.
The secondary seems, well, there's some interesting statistics here. I think if you look at our pass defense, where it rates in the conference, it's probably in the bottom half of the conference. But at the same time, you've got, I think, 12 interceptions. I'm not sure of that number, but Brinkmeyer's got 7, and there are a couple other guys that have all got 1 or 2.
Right. I think our secondary is playing well. You know, we play mostly zone defense, and Brian Brinkmeyer does have the knack and the ability, which you have to have when you're playing zone. If you're settling back in your zone, you've got to break on the football. And when that quarterback, you know, when he turns his shoulder and opens up and ready to throw, you've got to watch his eyes and you've got to break to the football. And Brian's done that extremely well. I think the other night, the first interception he got, I know he went 25 yards when that ball was in the air, and he got a good jump on it and intercepted the ball in the end zone. Then he made another great interception over the middle and brought it back 18 yards to set up our second score. But we've played well in the secondary. We have not gotten beat deep. I think we're coming up and tackling pretty well, and the problem with the New Prague game, our secondary had to make too many tackles.
Well, they
were making a lot of tackles, and of course we'd like to see our linebackers and our defensive linemen making some more tackles, but like I say, New Prague was a good football team, and I think you've got to give them some credit.
Well, coming up now is probably 2 real interesting ball games. First of all, next week, of course, will be a homecoming ball game. A lot of stuff going on this week, Grady. Is that a big distraction for your team, or does it get them together a little bit more, or how do you feel about homecoming week?
Well, I don't know. Homecoming, it depends on the type of kids you got. You know, I think that if the kids realize that, or have the feeling that the football game to them is the most important thing about homecoming, it's not a problem. But, you know, if you get distracted with this and that and different contests and all this different stuff, you can lose your perspective, I think, on the game. And we realize that there are a lot of aspects of homecoming that are important for kids. But, you know, our main concern is the football game. As Jim Mills used to say when he was my assistant for many years, he'd tell the kids homecoming isn't worth a darn if you lose the football game. And that's you know, that's the way we look at it, and we hope that our kids, you know, have got the proper perspective and they're channeling in on the game. I think the big thing that's hurting us is injuries. We've had not many practice hours with these kids. Both Lindemeyer and Mingy missed Monday and Tuesday, and Conrad was in shorts and sweats Monday and Tuesday, and Dake is out indefinitely, and so we're a little banged up, and hopefully we can have another couple practices so we're ready for that Lakeville game.
Okay, now I know you've seen Lakeville play once, and you've scouted them one other time. We were talking a little bit here while we were getting ready, and from a physical standpoint, they have just an awesome team.
Well, they do have, you know, Lakeville right now has got 6 kids playing Division I football. They've got 4 at the University of Minnesota, 1 at Northern Iowa, 1 at Northern Illinois, and they're all scholarship kids. And they all came off their 87-88 team. You know, in 88 they won the state championship. They've got some kids now that are in the same quality, but they're young. They're a year away. They really felt that Lakeville was a year away from being maybe a state championship team. Of their 11 players on defense, they only have 1 senior. Boy by the name of Hilgenberg. Maybe some of the fans remember Wally Hilgenberg that played for the Vikings. His son is a defensive corner for Lakeville, and the rest of the kids are 7 juniors and 3 sophomores. So they're young, and they're talented, and they're big. They're huge, in fact. And one of their linebackers, inside linebackers, is 6'4", 235, and he's a sophomore. So you know, they're beatable, as Red Wing proved 2 weeks ago. They beat them 36-26. I think if they have a weakness, you can maybe throw the football on them. It remains to be seen if we've got enough skill to do that. But they are certainly a team that is beatable, but we have to play better than we did last week. If you look at the scores, they beat New Prague 26-0.
I thought it was 10-0. Maybe
No,
that was Chaska.
It was 26-0, and so that tells you something about them. And yet, if you want to compare scores, Lakeville beat Prior Lake 21-7. We beat them 28-14. So there's some scores that are comparable, except last week's when Lakeville tromped on Northfield 65-0. They must have been trying to prove something in that game, because I know I believe their last 2 points were 2-point conversion.
Well, I'm sure it's just what they wanted to see at Northfield. You get behind 63-0 and have the other team go for 2 points.
Well, I don't know. Lakeville, of course, was the #1 ranked team for a couple of weeks, and we really felt when they came in here, they would still be the #1 ranked team, and it would be really a pleasure and really a great opportunity for our kids to play them. But you know, still physically they may be #1 in the state. Who knows? And we've got to play our best football. We cannot have the penalties that we've had, the face masks and the holdings and the offsides and things like that, and no turnovers if we're going to, you know, play with them.
Win the ball game. Okay, after that we finish up with Holy Angels, and again, these are both ball games that we surely can win. Whether we will or not, of course, remains to be seen. Well, the only thing that we're sure of at the moment is that we are in the state playoffs. We're guaranteed a spot probably in the top 4, so we'll get at least 1 home game out of that, perhaps 2. What do you see shaping up in the section, Grady?
Well,
who are some of the other teams in our section?
As just talking about the last couple of games now, we play Lakeville, and of course then we finish with Holy Angels. And Holy Angels started out 2-0. They beat Red Wing, and they've got a kid that's awfully quick. That scored, I think, 6 touchdowns in the first 2 ball games, and he's been going, you know, wild most of the year. So we've got 2 tough games. Lakeville's got 2 tough games. They've got to play us Friday night. Of course, then they go to they play Chaska on Wednesday. So that could give them some trouble. New Prague, I felt at the time, had the easiest schedule, but they have to play Holy Angels and Benilde, and Benilde is really coming on strong lately.
Benilde's 3-3 after
who knows what's going to happen? You know, in the last, the conference championship certainly is up for grabs, no doubt about it. As far as the section is concerned, I look for Orono. Orono has to play Montemita yet, but I look for Orono to finish undefeated. I look for Delano to finish undefeated.
First, now Delano, they play at least 2 or 3 B schools.
They do play a number of B schools, and I think if we would finish 7-1, we would probably nose them out for second. But I think they'll be undefeated. Then, you know, Delano or us probably will be second and third in there. As far as the fourth place spot, you know, you kind of keep track as the season goes along, and I kind of thought Chaska would jump into fourth, but I think they're going to end up 4-4.
Yeah, they got their hands full with the 2 ball games you got left.
And right now, Monticello is 4-2, and the Central Lakes, you know, a couple of those wins have been against AA schools. I kind of think that they're going to end up 5-3, which would shove them into the fourth spot, possibly moving Chaska down to fifth. Now, if Glencoe finishes 5-3, you know, that could move them up to the fifth spot, depending on who they've beaten. I know they've beaten some B schools, so maybe Chaska would nose them out. But I think they'd nose Chaska out if they got 5 wins and Chaska only had 4. If we finish third, we would play the 6th place team, so that could be Glencoe. It could be Waseca. Waseca right now is 3-3. They do have to play Fairmont. They'll probably lose that. So I don't think they're going to finish better than 4-4, so they're going to be in that 6th, possibly 7th spot. But I would look for us to play Glencoe, Chaska, or Waseca, one of those 3 schools in the playoffs. And Waseca the other night beat St. Peter 25-0.
Well, they did. I was not aware of that.
St. Peter 25-0, and I saw Terry Gilbertson down at the Davis-Bethel game here a week or so ago, and I said, well, is St. Peter down? He said, no, they're great.
Oh, okay.
And, but they lost 9 fumbles against Waseca.
Okay.
So it ended up 25-0, and so Terry down in Waseca was just kind of hoping they'd get into the playoffs, but they'll be in the playoffs. I think the 8th place team right now looks like it could be Waconia. Now they've got 2 wins, and they have to play St. Michael, Albertville, and Delano, so they're not.
Probably not going to win anymore.
Mound's got 1 win. Buffalo and Shakopee have no wins. I don't look for Shakopee to win a game. I don't look for Buffalo to win a game because they've got the tough ones coming up. So that leaves Mound and Waconia. If Mound could squeak a game out against somebody, they would have 2 wins, and they might not want to play Orono again because I see last week Orono clubbed them 45-0. And that would be the matchup if Mound got in that 8th spot. Otherwise, it would probably be Waconia in the 8th spot playing against Orono in the first round.
Well, just to recap our position in the conference, there's a 3-way tie at the moment going into the Lakeville game. The Tigers, of course, are 5-1. Lakeville 5-1, having lost to Red Wing, and New Prague also 5-1, having lost to Lakeville. So any one of those 3 teams could surely win the conference. I think everybody else is pretty well out of it. Chaska's got 2 losses, but
well, actually, Chaska's got 3 losses.
3?
And
okay.
Red Wing has got 2, and they could possibly tie if, you know, who knows? If we would beat Lakeville, and then Holy Angels would beat Northfield, and you know, if we win our last 2, we'd probably could win it outright. But there is a possibility of 2 losses tying for the championship, so who knows what's going to happen. But
well, as we talked, if you'll recall from our opening segment 3 or 4 weeks ago, we talked about Hutchinson just being another pretty good football team and a pretty good conference, and I think you take New Prague, Lakeville, Hutchinson, Red Wing has got a superb football team. They all perhaps deserve some recognition. There are only 87 teams, I think, in the A classification. I think they could all maybe make a case for being in that top 10% of that group.
Well, I think so, and I think any one of those teams is a threat to win their section. Of course, Lakeville, New Prague, and Red Wing are all in the same section, and that's going to be an interesting battle there. You look at our section, Orono ranked number 1 in the state, Delano ranked number 3 in the state, we were ranked number 8 in the state. Chaska started the year picked to win the Minnesota Conference, and they were ranked up there in the state, and they've had some injuries, but by playoff time they might be healthy again. Monticello, who's 4-2 in a AA league, playing extremely well. Who knows? I mean, it's going to be just like last year. Last year we were seeded 6th with a 5-3 record and had beaten 3 AA schools.
That's right.
So you know, our section probably will be the toughest section again to get out of, and it's been extremely tough the last few years. Orono's had some remarkable teams. Orono is 6-0, and they've had 5 shutouts. Now you shut out 5 teams out of 6, you know, and the one team that scored against them, Brooklyn Center, is one of the top B schools in the state. So it's going to be a tough section.
Well, and one of those things all those shutouts will tell you also is you've got some depth.
Right, because when you're that far ahead, you're playing second people, and they're in there shutting people out too, you know. So and they're getting a lot of good experience, and that's one of the things about playing in a conference where you've got a few breathers. You know, you can get healed up, and you get all the kids getting some experience in there. And I think one thing we found about the Minnesota Conference, it's pretty tough from top to bottom, and there aren't a whole lot of breathers. Even, you know, last week when we played Northfield, and you know, here we were in first place and they were in last, and I thought they were not a bad 0-6 football team.
Oh, I agree, and we talked about that when we did the ball game. That well, they haven't won any ball games, but they're kind of in the middle of the conference in offense. They're kind of in the middle of the conference in defense, and I don't know if the turnovers have been what's killing them, or just what their problem is, because they look to be a team that could have and should have. Maybe they've got the second leading rusher in the conference.
Right.
Should have won some ball games in there. So, well, going into the Lakeville game, as you said, hopefully you'll have most of your people back. Any significant changes, or are you going to go pretty much with what you've done so far?
Well, we're going to make some position changes, not so much personnel changes. We're going to try Colin McGraw as a down lineman and see if we can get some good production. Colin's a hitter, and he's a tough kid, and we're going to put him down as a defensive end, and then we're going to move Mingy inside and see if we can shore up the defensive line a little bit. And maybe get a little less size and a little more quickness in there. And of course, Matt Miller will be playing that outside spot. And we're also going to, Corey McClure is back healthy now from about with mono, and we're going to let him play a little outside linebacker. He's not very big, but he's a hitter, and you know, he's a good defender, and so he'll get some action in there as an outside linebacker also. And Brandon Chafee will be playing a little bit more inside linebacker, and of course we get Schmeling back, and he can play a number of positions. Inside linebacker, which he played in the Benilde game. He can also play outside linebacker, defensive end also. So that's going to help our depth a little bit.
Okay. Would Lakeville team that likes to throw the ball, or they pretty much just run right at you?
Their strength is their offensive line. I mean, they flat out knock you off the football. They knock you right off the football. And I was talking to Paul Lenz today because he helped coach over there last year. And he said they're very intense. Their offensive line coach is intense. He said, if you want to see an intense individual, he said, those boys better be knocking people off the football or they're not out there. And that's their strength. They've got good running backs, but they don't have anybody like this Hennon from New Prague that's going to run away from you and just make you miss constantly. They're good, strong running backs, but their strength is their offensive line. They're not very fancy. They probably run 5 running plays. They run up the gut to that lone back, and they run a double wing is what they run, and then they run the power sweep in the reverse. They like the bootleg pass. They've got a tight end that's 6'6" and about 220, and got great hands. Not fast, but got good hands. And their quarterback is a transfer in from Georgia. You know, he's a good football player. Throws extremely well. The one thing they may lack, at least from looking at films and having seen them, I don't think they have those flat-out burners that can just go by you. And but they're big and strong in that offensive line, and that I think is the key to their team.
Okay, so we'll look forward to that ball game. It's a game that we kind of said at the beginning of the year. I think both teams had hoped to or thought perhaps they would come into the game undefeated. The Tigers, of course, stumbled a little bit last week against New Prague with a 1-point loss. 2 weeks ago, Lakeville got clipped by Red Wing, and perhaps one of our better games when we held Red Wing. Really held them down nicely. I think it was 28-12, according to my notes here. Something in that neighborhood.
31-12, we beat them. That was probably our best football game that we played, both offensively and defensively. But that was a situation where we made no mistakes in the first half anyway. Every time we got the ball, we took it down there and we scored. We made some mistakes against them in the second half, if you can recall, and we coughed up some fumbles, but and they actually outscored us 6-3. But I think that was the best half of football we've played, and if we played like that against Lakefield, we'll beat them.
Okay, so it's a ball game which I think everybody's looking forward to. It will go a long way towards determining who the #1 seed will be in two sections, both the section we're in and also the section that Lakeville is in. So, and of course, whoever wins their next two ball games will be undisputed conference champion. Well, not necessarily. New Prague can come in there and win their last two games.
Yes, New Prague maybe has the easiest schedule. They play Benilde and Holy Angels, and yet they could get knocked off in those games. And I think, you know, when the season started, we would have felt really good if we could have played Lakeville in that 7th ball game for the conference championship, and that's what it's boiling down to, because we were picked to finish 4th in the conference. Chaska was picked in one poll to win it. Lakeville was picked in the other poll to win it. So maybe we've overcome expectations a little bit, but we wanted to be in a position where when we played Lakeville here for homecoming, that the conference championship was riding on it, and that's the way it is. And it's, you know, it's all out there for our kids. You know, we've coached so many years. You know, we've been through conference championships. I think we've had 12 of them here in the last 20 years, but these kids haven't. You know, every year you get a bunch of new kids, and they want to experience those things. And, of course, we as coaches want to experience another conference championship too, but you know, it's out there for our kids. If they want it badly enough, it's right there for them if they want to go out and work for it and do it.
Well, I think you hit the nail right on the head. The Tigers, of course, have experienced a great deal of success over the years. But for this group of people, this group of young men that are playing right now, these next two ball games, these are things that they'll remember for the rest of their lives. They get a chance, you know, the perfect setup. You're playing homecoming for the conference championship, in effect. And we just wish you and all these young people the best, and we'll perhaps try and get together once more, maybe after the regular season and before we go into the section. So, for HCVN, this has been Ward Haugen, along with Tiger head coach Grady Rosberg. I want to thank you for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you perhaps once more before the end of the year.